Kyle, thanks for coming.
Of course. You really look stunning.
I'm so glad to hear that from you. I'm way prettier than that older woman you married, right?
Well,
Chloe, a colleague of mine who constantly ignores me and makes condescending remarks. I sighed, wondering how someone could be so childish. Even my husband, Kyle, just laughed as she belittled me. Excuse me? Are you talking about me?
Oh, did I invite you?
Chloe smirked as she said that. But what annoyed me the most was Kyle's silence.
I wanted Kyle here, but I have no use for you. Why don't you just leave?
Seeing Kyle quietly enduring whatever Chloe said, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to waste any more of my time. All right, I'm leaving. With that, I left the venue. Afterward, I went straight home, packed my bags, and headed back to my parents' house. I even changed my phone number to avoid any contact. My name is Sally Anderson, and I just turned 25 this year. After graduating from the College of Engineering, I landed a job at a major IT company, and this is my third year there. As I gained experience as an engineer, my team began to trust me, and recently, I've been invited to join major projects. Looking forward to working with you on this.
Absolutely. You've been growing so fast, and everyone has high hopes for you. Just go at your own pace, but keep up the great work.
Yes, I will. Encouraged by my manager, I pushed myself harder than ever and kept achieving results. It was around that time I met Kyle, who worked in sales and was 2 years older than me. Kyle was the sales rep for one of the projects I was managing, and we gradually became close through frequent meetings.
if you're free after work, how about grabbing dinner? There's a nice Italian restaurant nearby.
Really? I'd love to.
Great. I'll make the reservation for 7 p.m. See you later.
Kyle's cheerful demeanor quickly stole my heart. Apparently, Kyle also saw me as more than a colleague, and after about 6 months, we started dating. About a year later, we got married. Even after the wedding, I continued working as a career woman, enjoying a happy life. However, a source of stress lately had been my colleague, Chloe.
Seriously, what's with that skirt? This isn't the 80s. Aren't you embarrassed to wear something so outdated and old-fashioned?
What? A friend gave this to me as a birthday gift, and I think it's cute.
Well, your friend must have terrible taste to buy something like that, and you're just as ridiculous for wearing it so confidently.
Chloe said this while laughing hysterically at my skirt. Chloe joined the company the same year as I did, and we both work in the same development department. We used to be friendly as new hires, but as work got busier, we stopped talking. As an engineer, I didn't always work with her, who was a designer. But recently, she had been getting on my nerves more often.
I guess you got promoted because the hiring was like you. But don't get too full of yourself. Nobody actually respects your skills.
This again? How many times do I have to tell you? I earned their trust through my abilities. This company isn't easy enough for people to rise through favoritism.
In a male-dominated development team, it's easy to be liked, isn't it? There are plenty of people more talented than you.
I couldn't understand why Chloe hated me so much. I couldn't recall ever troubling her or making her upset. But ever since I married Kyle, her attitude towards me had become harsher, and I began to suspect that might be the reason. Kyle was kind and had a great personality. Maybe Chloe had her eyes on him, but if that was the reason, it was far too immature. I don't know what your goal is by harassing me, but stop bringing personal issues into the workplace. We're both full-time employees, so we should cooperate and work for the company's benefit.
Coming from someone who cheats her way up by flirting with the highness.
Chloe snapped back and stormed off, leaving me without a chance to press her further. But I didn't have the time to dwell on it. Just because we were colleagues didn't mean we had to be friends. If she hated me, the best approach was to ignore her. Although I was slightly annoyed, I shifted my focus back to my work. That day, I worked a bit of overtime before heading home. Kyle, who should have already been home, wasn't there yet. Hey Kyle, I just got back, but you're not home. Are you running late tonight?
I'm out having dinner with some clients. I might not be back until late.
Oh, okay. Take care. With that, he hung up the phone. I didn't blame Kyle, but I wasn't thrilled either. It was only after we got married that I found out Kyle had been quite the night owl when he first joined the company. I hadn't seen him staying out late while we were dating, so the revelation had been a surprise. Since our wedding, his late nights had increased under the guise of work dinners with colleagues or clients. While I understood that some networking was necessary, the frequency had become excessive. Even though I knew he wasn't cheating, the situation left me feeling uneasy. One day, I realized my period hadn't come for a while, so I decided to take a pregnancy test on my day off. Kyle, I think I'm pregnant.
What? Pregnant?
Yeah, we talked about not rushing into having kids, but I'm still so happy. Ever since I was a child, I dreamed of having kids after getting married. Knowing that dream had come true and feeling a life growing inside me was both surreal and incredibly moving. However, when I told Kyle about the pregnancy, his reaction was concerning.
So, how long do you plan to keep working?
Since I have a desk job, I plan to work up to a certain point and then switch to remote work. That's what a senior colleague in my department did. Kyle didn't seem particularly interested in the fact that I was pregnant. Of course, I didn't expect him to react like me, but didn't he feel any joy about becoming a dad? More than wanting him to celebrate, I was worried about whether he had any sense of responsibility as a father. Are you not that happy about it?
It's not that I'm unhappy. It's great that we're having a kid. Well, you're the one giving birth, so good luck with that.
His words made it sound like someone else's problem, but I decided to hold back from saying anything. When my belly grows bigger or once the baby is born, surely he'll develop some paternal instinct. Hoping for that, I decided to wait and see. About 6 months later, my belly had grown significantly. One morning during a long weekend, Kyle was getting ready to go out.
I'll be heading back to my parents' house for these 3 days, okay?
What? That's so sudden. Did something happen?
Not really, but I figured it's good to visit my parents once in a while. It's kind of like being a good son, you know? There's no problem with it, right?
While there wasn't an issue, Kyle wasn't particularly close to his parents. Apparently, their relationship had soured when he had to repeat a year in college, and I had only met them once at our wedding. It felt a little strange. Was he really going back to his parents' house? but trust is crucial in marriage. I trusted that Kyle wouldn't betray me while I was pregnant, so I decided not to pry. All right, take care. Say hi to your parents for me.
Will do. Let me know if anything comes up.
Since the due date was approaching, I had hoped Kyle would stay home to help with chores and support me, but I accepted it. I tried to take care of myself as best as I could without putting too much strain on my belly. Even after that, there were days when Kyle wasn't home, citing business trips and other reasons. But finally, the day of delivery arrived.
Sally, your baby is here.
It wasn't an easy delivery, and I struggled quite a bit, but I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She looked just like me, and she was so precious I felt like I could cry with happiness. The pain of childbirth disappeared entirely in the joy that filled my heart. However, Kyle didn't make it to the hospital until the next morning because he had a meeting with a client. While I was a little disappointed in Kyle's priorities, my happiness remained unshaken. After spending a week in the hospital, I was discharged.
So, when are you going back to work?
I haven't decided yet, but my top priority is raising our child. For the first year, I focused entirely on childcare, then returned to work in the second year. Since I still had to care for my daughter, I primarily worked remotely. By the time she turned 3, I was back to work full-time. I sent her to preschool, which occasionally caused inconveniences for my company due to drop-offs and pickups. But I received plenty of support and lived without much trouble. However, not everyone was supportive.
Must be nice to slack off at work just because you have a kid. By the way, she doesn't look anything like Kyle. Are you sure she's even his?
Don't say weird things when you have no proof.
You can't judge people by appearances. A sly fox like you. Who knows what you're up to behind the scenes?
I knew Chloe didn't like me, but I never expected her to stoop to such nasty comments. Not wanting to stir up trouble, I had tolerated her behavior until now, but this was too much. Even I had my limits. That's crossing the line. Are you seriously accusing me of cheating on Kyle and having a child with someone else?
It's not entirely impossible, is it? Or are you trying to say you're some kind of saint? It's hard to trust someone who flirts with the hires for favors.
You don't know anything about me, so stop making baseless accusations. I've never cheated. I raised my voice without thinking, unable to contain my anger. Anyone would be furious if accused of infidelity without any evidence. Chloe's smug grin only added to my frustration.
Well, even if you didn't cheat, who knows about Kyle? He's popular, and let's be real, someone like you probably doesn't satisfy him.
Hey, that's enough.
Both of you, stop it right now. Chloe, don't provoke her any further. You're not children, so don't make me step in over something like this.
Our manager came over and scolded us for our loud argument. His words brought me back to my senses, and I managed to calm down a bit. Anyway, I'm not doing what you're accusing me of, so stop making false claims. Knowing there was no point in engaging further, I returned to my desk. After that, I avoided speaking to Chloe, and there were no more issues at work. However, Kyle often stayed out late and was largely uninvolved in raising our daughter. I was disappointed in Kyle's selfishness, but I knew I had to step up for my daughter. That realization pushed me to work even harder. Then one day, We received an announcement that Chloe was marrying the CEO's son, and the entire company was invited to the wedding. Are you going to Chloe's wedding, Kyle?
Yeah, but you don't get along with her, so I guess you're not going?
I'll go. But how do you even know we don't get along? Kyle's comment struck me as odd. I never discussed work at home, let alone anything about Chloe. So how did Kyle know about our strained relationship?
It's kind of a well-known thing at the office. People talk about the drama between you and Chloe in the development department.
Really?
Then why bother attending if you two don't get along? It's not like everyone is required to be there.
Kyle might have a point, but as a professional, I felt it was better to attend. I didn't want to cause any unnecessary tension by skipping it. So, ignoring Kyle's increasing absence from home, I focused on work and parenting until Chloe's wedding day arrived. I attended the wedding with Kyle, and I was stunned by how extravagant it was. Her fiancé was the CEO's son, but I hadn't expected it to be on this scale. After greeting the other guests, the ceremony began. Partway through, the bride and groom made their rounds to greet everyone.
Kyle, thanks for coming.
Of course, you look absolutely stunning.
I'm so glad to hear that from you. Much prettier than that old woman you married, don't you think?
Well,
Chloe ignored me entirely, focusing on making condescending remarks. I sighed, wondering how she could still be so childish. Excuse me, are you talking about me?
Oh, did I even invite you?
Chloe smirked as she said that, but what irritated me most was Kyle's silence. He had been complimenting Chloe earlier, yet the moment she belittled me, he went quiet. It was incredibly disrespectful to me. Kyle, was it a mistake for me to come?
no, that's not what I meant.
I wanted Kyle here, but I have no use for you. Why don't you just leave?
Watching Kyle stay silent as Chloe continued to insult me, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to waste any more of my time. All right, I'm leaving. With that, I walked out of the wedding venue. To an outsider, it might have looked like Kyle was staying silent to avoid escalating the situation. But I knew exactly what Kyle was thinking deep down. I acted based on that understanding. When I got home, I immediately packed my things and went to my parents' house with my daughter. I changed my phone number and cut off all contact.
Are you sure this is the right decision?
Absolutely. I have no regrets, so don't worry. I might inconvenience you and Dad for a bit, though. I decided to stay at my parents' house for the time being. But the next morning, to my surprise, Kyle showed up at their house. He had been invited to my parents' home once before we got married, so he knew where they lived. I just didn't expect him to come so soon.
Disappearing without notice and cutting off all contact. What were you thinking? You're causing trouble for everyone.
I had no intention of contacting you. And why are you suddenly pretending to be a decent person now?
That's not the point. Don't make decisions on your own without telling me.
Kyle yelled at me angrily. However, Kyle seemed completely unaware of his position.
Just let me inside already. It's freezing out here.
No way. That's obviously not happening. I didn't want to argue outside the house, but I also didn't want to let him inside where my daughter was. So I decided we should head to a nearby cafe instead. Once inside, I chose the seat closest to the exit and ordered an iced coffee. Then I started the conversation. First of all, you've shown zero interest in us until now. What's the sudden change? Judging by the wedding, you clearly like Chloe more than me.
Are you jealous or something? You're not a kid, so don't let silly emotions get the better of you.
His completely tone-deaf remark irritated me. I didn't know him any more patience. Feeling no need to hold back, I decided to lay everything out. You've been the one acting selfish this whole time, ignoring us and cheating with someone at work. What on earth were you thinking? You're not a child. Can't you tell right from wrong?
Huh?
As soon as I said that, Kyle's eyes darted around nervously, his mouth agape. He was clearly panicking. He must have never imagined that his affair had been exposed. He was probably scrambling to come up with some excuse. But I already have all the evidence. At this point, it's too late for him to come up with excuses. I've suspected for a while. You'd say you were at work drinks, but staying out until the middle of the night. It didn't add up.
That's just because the drinks went on late, and we'd hit a second bar or something. You're seriously accusing me of cheating over that?
Recently, I started noticing something else. You come home smelling like shampoo. It's obvious you were showering somewhere. I hadn't jumped to conclusions based on just his late nights. I had truly wanted to believe in Kyle until the very end. But he was the one who had betrayed that trust. How could he be so audacious, acting as though he had done nothing wrong? Did he feel no guilt at all? Any excuse you make at this point just sounds pathetic. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you were showering somewhere else? I'm not that clueless.
You're misunderstanding. I had to visit a lot of department stores for work, and maybe it's the scent from there?
Then explain why you didn't smell like sweat at all during summer. Normally, your shirts have sweat stains, but on certain days, they didn't. Kyle's weak excuses were making me angrier by the second. Do you really want to keep this up? The affair's already exposed, so you might as well own up to it.
You're just imagining things. There were plenty of female colleagues at those work events. Maybe the perfume rubbed off on me. There are tons of explanations.
You're stubbornly refusing to admit it, huh? Fine. Maybe this will make you understand. I pulled out my phone and opened a PDF file filled with photos. It contained numerous photos serving as evidence of Kyle's affair. Yes, I had already collected proof. I started noticing the signs more clearly after giving birth to our daughter. Since I hadn't said anything about his frequent late nights, he must have gotten overconfident. The shampoo scent and his increasingly suspicious behavior made everything clear. So, when my daughter became a bit more independent, I hired a private investigator to look into it. When I discovered Kyle's affair, I was genuinely shocked, but I couldn't immediately decide on divorce because of my daughter. While I was agonizing over what to do, Kyle's behavior at Chloe's wedding finally made up my mind. In Kyle's mind, I had already been ranked below Chloe. You've been cheating with Chloe for years, haven't you? Was it really that fun? How could you show your face at her wedding? What kind of nerve does that take?
What is this? Were you stalking me all along?
That's not the point. I have proof of your affair. What excuses do you have now? Kyle fell silent at my words. but I had already decided to divorce him after the wedding, and I wasn't going to waste any more time. First, you're going to sign the divorce papers and you'll pay alimony. I can't trust you, so child support will need to be paid in full upfront.
Wait a second. Don't make decisions without me. It wasn't serious with her. It was just a fling.
And do you think I'd forgive you because it was just a fling? Enough with the nonsense. As a parent, you're a complete failure if you can't even discern what's acceptable behavior. If Kyle thought he could turn this situation around, he was utterly delusional. He refused to acknowledge his wrongdoing, let alone apologize, and instead kept making excuses. For someone who worked in sales, he had zero communication skills. Apologizing for one's mistakes is basic human decency. The fact that he couldn't even manage that was deeply disappointing.
Just because we have a child doesn't mean rushing into divorce is okay. I get that you're angry, but think this through. Kids raised in single-parent households don't turn out well.
Even kids raised by so-called perfect parents can grow up to be terrible people like you. It's not that simple. Besides, I don't believe someone who casually betrays others is capable of raising a child. Kyle was at a loss for words as usual, because what I said was unarguable. Considering he had happily attended Chloe's wedding, his affair was probably just a fling. But whatever the reason, my trust in him was gone. And no matter what he did, that trust wasn't coming back. Anyway, my decision is already made, so making excuses is pointless. And before you say anything else, I think you owe me an apology.
I'm sorry. I was completely wrong. Please forgive me.
Kyle suddenly remembered to apologize. However, I had no intention of accepting an apology that lacked sincerity. Even if you got down on your knees, I wouldn't forgive you. Here's what I have to say. Sign the divorce papers, pay alimony, and cover the child support. If you refuse, I'll take this to court with a lawyer. With that, I placed money for the coffee on the table and left the cafe. Ignoring the stunned Kyle, I returned home. Later, Kyle showed up at my parents' house, but my father handled it, warning that if he persisted, they would call the police. The mention of police scared him off, and he left that day. Since it would be awkward to see him at work, and because of his connection with Chloe, I explained the situation to my manager and worked remotely for about a week. I felt bad for causing inconvenience, but I believe this was the best decision for the company as well. A week later, after things had settled down, I returned to the office as if nothing had happened. But the moment I walked in, an enraged Chloe stormed over.
Hey, don't mess with me.
She grabbed me by the collar and started yelling at me first thing in the morning. Although others around us were visibly uncomfortable, I wasn't particularly shocked since I had expected this kind of behavior from Chloe. What's your problem? Yelling at me all of a sudden makes no sense. Can't you talk like a normal person?
Don't play dumb. You've ruined my life. Take responsibility.
Oh, so you're upset that your affair got exposed. But it's your own fault for cheating. Destroying someone else's family and then throwing a tantrum is just pathetic. As I said this, Chloe glared at me, clenching her teeth. The facts were simple. She had an affair and she had helped end my marriage with Kyle. I wasn't saying anything untrue. Everyone around us was glaring coldly at Chloe. Clearly, they all knew about her affair with Kyle. I had only told our manager, but news like this spreads quickly, especially since she had married the CEO's son. An affair like hers was bound to become infamous within the company.
Shut up. Anyway, I'm leaving this company, and the wedding's been called off. Plus, they're billing me for all the wedding expenses.
And isn't that just common sense? You're not a child. Take responsibility for your actions.
I don't need a lecture from you. I'm telling you to apologize to me. There were better ways to handle this.
Chloe was in no position to demand an apology. Moreover, she was making a huge mistake. If she thought the current fallout was all there was, she was gravely mistaken. You're acting like the victim, but don't forget, you also owe me alimony. You didn't forget about that, did you?
What? You've already ruined my life, and now you want money too? Give me a break.
If anyone needs to give it a rest, it's you. For you, this might just be a broken engagement, but my daughter lost her father because of your actions. She'll grow up in a single-parent household because of you. I couldn't imagine someone so unreasonable having any sense of decency. Even if I mentioned my daughter, I knew it wouldn't affect Chloe. But I wanted her to understand just how serious the consequences were of her reckless actions, even though she was acting like a victim. I don't care what you were thinking when you had the affair, but you need to consider other people more. Your selfish actions have caused immense pain to innocent people. Remember that. Raising my voice, I saw Chloe flinch and take a step back. If she thought throwing a tantrum would solve everything, she was wrong. I continued speaking. You'll pay the alimony in a lump sum. If you can't, then take out a loan or figure it out. My lawyer will be in touch to discuss the details.
Wait, are you serious?
Let me ask you this. Did you think you could destroy a family and not face any consequences? The world doesn't work that way, and I'm not going to let you off the hook. Losing her engagement to the CEO's son was already a heavy blow to Chloe. But reality isn't so forgiving. Completely defeated, Chloe collapsed on the spot, sobbing. But no one offered her any comfort. Everyone in the room continued to glare at her with cold eyes.
I'm really sorry. I admit that cheating was my fault. Please forgive me.
Chloe finally admitted her wrongdoing, but it was too late for apologies. No matter what she said, my feelings wouldn't change. Forgiveness was no longer an option. If you're truly sorry, then pay the alimony without complaint, and stay away from me from now on. That's the only way you can take responsibility.
Don't say that. You know what my situation is. I've lost my job and my fans. What more do you want to take from me? I've suffered enough punishment.
There's no such thing as a punishment severe enough for what you've done. You should spend the rest of your life atoning for your sins and suffering. I truly mean that. Chloe started crying even harder, but when everyone ignored her, the awkwardness must have gotten to her. Wiping her tears, she left the room.
Are you all right? Considering everything with Kyle, let me know if you need to take some time off.
Thank you, but I don't want to cause any more trouble for the company. Please don't worry. I'll see my current projects through to the end. I apologize for the inconvenience I had caused. Everyone sympathized with my situation and offered me encouragement. Some colleagues who had grown up in single-parent households even offered their support if I ever needed help. Their kindness gave me so much relief. I then visited my lawyer to move forward with alimony and child support claims. The lawyer handled all communication with Kyle and Chloe, allowing me to focus on work and parenting. About a month later, payments were deposited from both Kyle and Chloe on the same day. Mom, the money has been deposited. Once work settles down, I'll start looking for a new place. Thanks for everything, and I'm sorry for the trouble.
Don't be sorry. I don't see this as trouble at all. Besides, having such a sweet granddaughter around has made my days so much brighter.
Thanks, Mom. I'll keep doing my best. With the divorce finalized, I completely cut ties with Kyle and Chloe. I heard they both lost their jobs due to the scandal. Apparently, they were sneaking around and meeting during work hours. It's no surprise they got fired. Kyle struggled to find another job and was disowned by his parents. He now works part-time to make ends meet while dealing with his debts from alimony and child support payments. The marital assets were handed over to me, but it wasn't enough. So Kyle had to take out loans to cover the rest. He's now living a life of poverty, barely getting by while repaying his debts. As for Chloe, after her engagement to the CEO's son was broken off, she alienated her friends by constantly flaunting her short-lived success. With no one willing to support her, she returned to her family's farm. Now, she spends her days doing early morning farm work to survive. Mom, how about we all go out for some barbecue tonight?
That sounds great. It's been a while since we've gone out to eat.
I'm still living with my parents and my daughter, and we're enjoying every day together. My parents absolutely adore their granddaughter, and she loves them just as much. Since they help take care of her, I can fully concentrate on my job. I plan to continue living with my family. I want to continue enjoying life together with my family. Building trust isn't easy. It takes years to form a strong, unshakable bond. But for those who betray that trust, the consequences are inevitable. I'll never betray the people I hold dear. Moving forward, I hope to continue building relationships where we can support each other no matter what.